This is a Hipsters of the Coast podcast. This Doomed Travelers podcast is brought to you by Hipsters of the Coast, your destination for magic news, strategy, and entertainment. And by Casthaven, where you can build your magic collection like a pro. Visit casthaven.com for more information.
All right, welcome to another episode of Doomed Travelers podcast, where we talk about magic, and at least one of us is going to be playing Destiny this week. I'm your host, Rich Stein, joined by Dave McCoy and Brendan McNamara. Unfortunately, Matt Jones cannot be here with us tonight because his bike is locked up with some other bikes outside of a bar somewhere in Brooklyn. So Matt will be unable to join us, but he wanted us to express to everyone how excited he is to go to Grand Prix Las Vegas this week, and that may or may not be legitimate excitement. So let's start with that. Grand Prix Las Vegas, it's in a few days. By the time folks at home are listening to this, it will only be 3 days away. Modern Masters weekend, starting in Japan, going to the Netherlands, and then here to Las Vegas, where there will be, I believe, almost 7,000 players. Dave, you excited for Vegas?
I am excited for Vegas. I'm excited to board a JetBlue flight in JFK and sit in the same row as Matt Jones, Hunter Slayton, Sam Werbolowski, and Kadar Brock. And we're going to probably just suffer through a 5-hour flight and then show up at Vegas at like 11:30 at night and go to bed. So, it's going to be an exciting Thursday. But Friday, the rest of the weekend is going to be a lot of fun. We had a great time during the first Grand Prix of Vegas. I can't imagine this one will be any worse. Vegas is not the best city in the world, but it's a great time, a great place to go when you want to have a good weekend. So.
Yeah, I've never been, so hopefully one day I'll get there.
It's hot and it's bright.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe it's not for me. Brendan, what about you? Looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's going to be good. I took Thursday and Friday off from work, and I'm going out there Thursday morning. And with the holiday tomorrow, I only have to work 2 days this week. So this is a great week. Hopefully,
that's exciting.
And yeah, it's been a couple years since I've been to Vegas, so it'll be nice.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm hoping this is a kind of a biannual thing that they're planning to do, this whole modern weekend thing. The thing I'm most looking forward to, since I won't be there, is watching the round-the-clock coverage that Wizards has planned. There'll be live coverage from Chiba, Japan, starting out Friday night. And then into Saturday, there'll be coverage from Utrecht in the Netherlands, and coverage, of course, from Las Vegas. And then all through the weekend, they'll be cycling that coverage across both of their Twitch channels. So for those of you who won't be making it to Vegas, or for those of you who are going to be scouting out the other 6,500 players for your friends, make sure you tune into both Twitch channels, Magic and Magic 2. This weekend. I don't know why I do any of their advertising for them, but
it's not like they do any advertising.
I do want people to watch the coverage. I'm a big fan of this around-the-clock 24-hour Grand Prix coverage idea. I think it would be super exciting if we had more weekends where there was a Grand Prix in Asia Pacific, in Europe, and in North America, such that we could watch coverage of all three. But I digress. Modern Masters. You guys have both had an opportunity to get your hands on it, draft it a little bit?
Correct.
What'd you think?
It's been fun. It's definitely less of an on-rails draft format than the original Modern Masters. You're not forced to pick your archetype super early, stick to it, and hope that is open the rest of the draft or find the open archetype. You can generally draft the good cards in each color and build a deck. Synergy be damned. I don't know. I've had fun, even though I went 06. I drafted 2 green-black decks that I thought were pretty good with 4 or 5 removal spells and some ramp through the Eldrazi spawn and some big dudes, including Kozilek, but to no avail. I have won exactly 1 game of Modern Masters.
That's no good. What did you?
I would suggest doing the
did you?
exact opposite of what I say.
I was gonna say, did you draft the same thing both times, or?
Yeah, I mean it was reading signals, right? I mean you don't really have much of a choice. You get put into the colors that the person to your right puts you in, and both times it was green, and black was the supplementary color.
I see.
And yeah,
is it just that? Is it? Do you think those colors are weak, and that's why you got forced into them?
I can't say that green's weak. Green seems like a pretty powerful color, but the problem with green is there's literally no removal in the color. Fight didn't exist at the time that this Modern Masters set spans. You're right, B-Mac?
The Cavaliers just beat the Hawks in overtime.
Oh, damn.
The Hawks missed a 3-pointer. They got 2 shots with like 5 seconds left.
Sorry, man.
That's how people know we're doing this live.
Yeah. Unfortunately, LeBron's going to get you.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Cleveland is up 3-0 in the series 2 days earlier than you listened to this.
But yeah,
so next weekend to watch all the playoff games. The Lightning also beat the Rangers.
They did. Oh man, what a tragedy.
Sorry, Rich. Anyway, sports tragedy.
My fiance was at that game.
Sports tragedy all around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Modern Masters 2015 spans sets in which green didn't have any fight-based removal.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a problem.
And so there's not a single actual removal spell in green, mono green at least. And so you had to really rely on a second color to provide you removal. And both times I had a white enchantment, either Arrest or Oblivion Ring, that I had to splash because of a lack of answers. And both times black removal was shipped to me. So that was also a supplementary color. But the problem is I've lost the Flyers every single time because green doesn't have any removal. And the rest of the removal was just not enough because green also doesn't have any Flyers. Anyway, so just don't draft mono green, splashing other colors. Draft.
I mean, unless you're ramping, right? What about you, Brendan? Do you have any luck with green or against green or?
Well, I did have luck with green. So I did one draft at a local store on Friday night, and I opened a Noble Hierarch to start the draft,
that is luck with green.
Yeah, it's like a card that's both one of the more valuable cards in the set and one of the better cards in the set.
Yeah.
So I took it, and then I ended up drafting green-white and kind of building a token deck. And then in Pack 2, I opened a Tarmogoyf, which is also green, and was surprisingly good. I wasn't even going to play it in my deck, and some friends were like, oh, you have to play it. And I was like, okay. And there's just there's random tribal cards and evolving wilds and Wayfarer's baubles and ways that unnatural are card types, and plus there's so many artifacts anyway because of the affinity and metalcraft decks that Tarmogoyf actually, I had it up to be a 5/6 that was also getting exalted triggers off my Noble Hierarch. So
that's pretty solid.
Yeah, people were saying that I was playing a constructed deck, and I was like, well, there's 4 or 5 good constructed cards. But it's definitely true that green does not have removal. White has incredible removal, though. Yeah, like I had an Arrest, an Oblivion Ring, and a Sunlance, which Sunlance is a sorcery.
Yes, it is.
I have to get used to the fact that I can't cast on my opponent's
turn,
but it doesn't matter.
Problem the first time around too.
Yeah, but there's tons of good white removal, and white-green, the tokens are really strong.
Yeah.
You can grind out decks that are attacking on the ground, like a lot of the artifact decks and a lot of the green decks, and even like red decks and black decks. Just, you can make so many tokens between all the spells like Spectral Procession and Scatter the Seeds, and then like the Eldrazi spawn cards like Kozilek's Predator is just incredible. Like I took a Kozilek's Predator over an Arrest in the draft because I was like, I need creatures, and I did not regret it at all, and it was so good.
Yeah. Scatter the Seeds was actually probably the most surprisingly powerful card in the decks that I played. Just being able to convoke out 3 Saprolings that then convoke out the next Scatter the Seeds is just really good. And then you play any of the Anthem effects, and you're golden.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a pretty interesting format so far. Do you think Sealed will play out similarly this weekend in Vegas?
Yeah, so I played a Sealed tournament yesterday, and I had a pretty good blue-white artifacts deck. Like I had All Is Dust, and I had the Indomitable Archangel that gives all your artifacts Shroud, which was actually kind of annoying because I also had Mortar Pod and Cranial Plating. And then I would like realize, oh wait, all my artifacts have Shroud, so I can only equip these things to my Indomitable Archangel. And my opponent, of course, has Blinding Soul Eater, which is like the most oppressive common, I think, in the format because you could just tap anything repeatedly. And it's a 1/3, so it's kind of hard to kill. And even if they tap out or they're not playing white, they can occasionally pay 2 life to do it. But overall, I thought Sealed was kind of similar to Draft. It's not like super bomby, but like one of my friends had a pool that had like Bitter Blossom and Profane Command and Ant Queen and like 4 Burst Lightnings or something. And so he just played this like 4-color deck where he was just jamming all of these ridiculously powerful cards, and he went 5-0 and won the whole thing. I think there's going to be a lot of since there's a decent amount of fixing in the set, there's going to be a lot of multicolor decks.
Yeah.
But there's also just like I played against normal archetypes like blue-white artifacts, red-white double strike, which was pretty annoying to play against.
Speaking of the fixing in the format, what kind of impact do the Ravnica lands have?
They're so strong. Like I'm still getting used to it. Like I was wondering during the draft, there'd be points when they'd be like 4th pick, and I'd have a choice of a bounce land that was one of my colors or like a good spell. I usually took the good spell because I needed them for my deck, but I thought, these bounce lands are so strong, and they definitely let you splash. They're just card advantage.
Yeah.
The one risk you have to watch out for is if you're on the draw and you play a bounce land on turn 2, and you have to pick up your other land, you might have 8 cards.
Right.
And have to discard, which if you haven't played with the bounce lands before, you'll probably realize this when your opponent says, "Hey, you have 8 cards," and you'll feel bad, especially since like you don't have lands at that point, probably because maybe you didn't realize it, but you probably would have played another land, and so you're discarding a real spell. But they're really strong. And
yeah, they were always very strong in Ravnica drafting back when they were first printed. So I think it's interesting to see a whole new generation, essentially, of Magic players get a chance to get their hands on them because they were always very powerful. Obviously, in a multicolor format like Ravnica, they're a little more powerful, but they definitely carry their weight. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the Sealed format has a chance of being better than the original Modern Masters Sealed format, because the archetypes are less linear, less set in stone.
Right.
The original Modern Masters was very linear, and I remember my deck from the original GP Vegas was some weird mishmash of a red-white Giants deck with red goblins in it. Okay. And there was absolutely no synergy. The cards didn't work together because they were designed to work in 2 completely different decks. And it did fine, but it was fighting itself a lot of the time.
Right.
Because those 2, like the Goblins deck and the Giants deck, just don't cooperate very well. And Modern Masters 2 seems to have avoided that problem a little better. You're not going to have trouble trying to mix archetypes because they're not tribal like they were in the original, and they're just a lot less linear. Like there's no arcane storm archetype, so you can take your red blue cards and mix them in with any of the other blue and red cards for the other archetypes and have a reasonable blue red deck.
Right.
Yeah, like I played against a blue-red deck in the sealed. There was also an artifact, metalcraft deck. And I played against another blue-red deck that was a bunch of elementals, and he was like cheating out mole drifters and spike bellows, and
Right.
that was difficult to play against. But yeah, there's a lot more flexibility in what you can do. It's being about creative combinations of cards, and I think they did a good job of, like, certainly with elementals, there are black and other colored elementals. I don't know if there's any spirits in other colors, but there's probably one or two.
Right.
And just a lot of the stuff overlaps. Like the green reddish deck, or pretty much all the green decks, have so much fixing available. There's the domain theme and
don't forget the Nameless Inversion is a spirit.
Yeah, Nameless Inversion is
Soul
like
Shift.
one of the awesomest
Soul
cards.
Shift that right back to your hand.
Yeah, there was a lot of sadness on the other side of tables when people were, sacrificing their spirit, getting back their Nameless Inversion, and their opponent's like, "What? How does that work?"
Yeah, that's a thing that's never going to happen again. Tribal instant.
Yeah.
Changeling. But no, I mean, it sounds like because I remember when the spoiler first came out, right? So we were all down in Atlantic City just a few weeks ago when the spoiler came out, and I was driving down with Zach Barish, who was distraught, to say the least, about the spoilers. He was very concerned about the lack of definition of the limited format. But it seems to me that that very thing that he was concerned about might actually be a strength of the format. And I think we'll see a lot of diversity in deck archetypes. Are you worried you won't get to draft it enough?
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be more of this Modern Masters available than last. I mean, there obviously is going to be more, but I think there's going to be enough more that if it turns out that it's a really deep and rewarding draft experience, that people can get some boxes, and hopefully at least like among your friend group you can all cobble together the money to be able to afford some of these boxes.
It'll only be $7 a pack on Moto instead of 10.
Dude, seven digital dollars?
Yeah, $7 digital dollars.
That's
which you can purchase for $7 real dollars.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And open a Tarmogoyf that's not worth hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
That's still worth something.
Yeah, I mean, the way you gotta think about it though is the money that you're not making on opening that Tarmogoyf, you're basically paying Moto to keep track of its power and toughness for you, because you don't have to keep track of it.
Yeah, I had at one point I put a +1/+1 counter on my Tarmogoyf, and I was also using a die to mark its size. So I'm like, okay, this die shows how much its power is, and then this is the +1/+1 counters.
That was gross.
Yeah, have you? I'm sure you guys have seen the Tarmogoyf dice.
Yeah, they have the fractions on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The card should just update itself. Come on.
Right.
It's the 21st century.
Why not? Well, the one thing you definitely won't get with Moto, though, is you won't get that new cardboard pack smell. What do the cardboard packs have new pack smell?
I mean, what is new pack smell? Is new pack smell the smell of Magic cards, or is it the smell of the plastic, the foil wrapping?
It's something. It is yes, one of those things.
Or is it all just in our mind?
Possibly all those things.
Yeah, I didn't notice. It did feel like the cards have a little slicker feel, sort of like the foreign cards. But I mean, who knows? It could also be that I just haven't handled a lot of fresh cards in a couple of weeks.
Well, they're probably all just counterfeits.
And you guys didn't have any have any defect packs yet, right?
You mean missing rares, that kind of stuff?
No, so there have been reports of packs that have been have damaged cards in them.
I didn't see any that were really bad. Like the noble hierarch I got had a little fleck along the black border on one of the sides, but that happens in all packs sometimes. Maybe it's more
right.
But I didn't see any, like people were talking about just much worse damage. But
oh yeah. People have been reporting pretty drastic damage. I've seen some print runs where parts of the cards are stained white or something. But also one of the big ones I saw was a report. Of course, I saw this one on Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. But a report coming out from Florida that because of the humidity, the cardboard packaging let in more moisture than the plastic packaging would, and packs were being opened where the foils were, I guess, pre-warped for you. It's a new little feature.
Yeah, I mean, we opened a pack. What was it, yesterday? And so this was pack 1. So it was passed to me. I think I was getting 4th pick out of this pack, and I flip to the back and I see Ulamog's Crusher into Kozilek into foil Spaghetti Monster.
What?
And the foil Spaghetti Monster looked great. Some of the cards have been nicked, but who knows if that was happened before or after it got in the cardboard. Who knows? But yeah, it looked absolutely beautiful, and of course I had to pass it because we were rare drafting afterwards. But yeah, it was just like the person who opened it was Kadar, and he just couldn't stop laughing, and then he passed it, and the next person couldn't stop laughing, and then they passed it, and then I understood why they couldn't stop laughing because it was just all Eldrazi all the time.
Yeah,
that is great.
Kozilek, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah, getting to 10 is so hard if you don't have the appropriate Eldrazi spawn.
Yeah, I think you can get to 10. I don't think you're going to cast Emrakul, but
Kozilek, you got to have a game go. I feel like if you draft Emrakul, you almost have to play a control deck, not a ramp deck.
Yeah. I tried playing. I had a deck. I don't know if it was a Rise of Eldrazi draft or if it was a Cube draft, but I had Emrakul and Awakening Zone, and I tried to build up enough counters and I ended up always having to block with them in order to survive, and so it did help me get to the point where I could cast Emrakul, but I think I won at the point that I had 14 mana and the game was I was 2/3 of the way through my deck, and I was like, okay, unless you're making a bunch of extra mana somehow, there's no way you're casting Emrakul.
Yeah, right. I think honestly the best big creature to cast in this format is Pelakka Worm. Ulamog's Crusher has been super underwhelming. Kozilek is a mythic. Spaghetti Monster is a mythic. Even cooler when it's a foil mythic, but it's still a mythic. But Pelakka Worm's an uncommon, and Pelakka Worm does something when it enters the battlefield, gains 7 life, and it does something when it leaves the battlefield. It draws you a card. Well, it has to die, I guess, but and it has Trample, which is very good, and it only costs 7. I've cast 3 of those cards, not the Emrakul that I passed. And Pelakka Worm was the one that performed the best out of all of them. And so I think the other Eldrazi might just be traps. I think you should take the first Pelakka Worm you see and just run with it.
Yeah, there are not very many big creatures in this format. There's a lot of chump blockers and tokens, and a lot of the strategies involve making lots of smaller creatures, but there's very few just big green creatures, and Pelakka Worm's the only real one other than Ulamog's Crusher and stuff that's available in lower rarities. And it would be very good. Trample, very good in this set.
Yeah, Trample's always good. Any kind of evasion, right? It's the basic, as exciting as the format is and as complex as the interactions are going to be, the basic tenets of good limited play aren't changing. You're always going to want flyers, you're always going to want tramplers, you're going to want a strong curve, right? So Emrakul doesn't really fit in any of those unless you're going to somehow build a crazy combo deck.
Get like 5 Cathodions or something.
Right, exactly. Or you got 7 Karoo lands. And some way to cheat them into play or something.
Yeah, man. If you have 7 Karoo lands, you're just gonna end up bouncing your Karoo land, and then you're screwed.
Right.
Well, here's how you play Emrakul. You get a Primeval Titan and you attack like 4 times a bit, and then when your opponent is somehow still alive, then you cast Emrakul.
Prime time into your bounce lands.
Yeah, I think ultimately Emrakul is going to serve as the card that you get to show your opponent was really cool and in your sideboard.
Yeah,
if your opponent
I guess
if there was a spell that's like, look at your opponent's sideboard and put a card from it on top of your opponent's deck, they would do that, and they would always give you Emrakul. And then they would, especially if you have a Dark Confidant in play. Yeah, you get extra points if you can, like LSV, lose to your Dark Confidant flipping your Emrakul.
Oh man, I hope it happens on camera. Is all I'm saying.
Yes, there's also Oblivion Ring in this set, so if he can get 3 Oblivion Rings going, he can relive his greatest moments.
Oh man, just draw the game.
Crash Moto, right? Crash real life.
Well, I think we've exhausted Modern Masters until we actually get some results from the Grand Prix. The set has been kind of a roller coaster from the spoilers being a bit disappointing to now the format seems more exciting than it could be, but still, I think I want there to be a Modern Masters again in 2 years. But I think Wizards has more to learn from this one, even than they did from the first. So that said, before we sign off, final thoughts. If you could make any one key change to Modern Masters going forwards, right? So let's just say Modern Masters 2017. What do you think a change you would want to make for 2 years from now would be? Dave?
Well, I think the biggest change that I'm looking forward to, which will obviously happen, is they're going to expand the reach or the number of sets that are included in the card pool for Modern Masters. Because one thing that surprised me, but it makes sense, is like green is stuck in the old way that green was.
Right.
And the lack of removal is kind of surprising, but makes sense because green never had the ability to really remove anything outside of cards that really didn't fit in green's color pie. So I'm really looking forward to a few more recent sets being added to the card pool, so that the colors at least feel more modern.
What follows Scars block that would get added?
Oh, nothing in particular. Nothing good.
Sorry?
Nothing good. Nah, nothing in particular.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's a specific green card you're hoping to get.
Prey Upon sounds pretty good.
Right.
Spider spawning?
Spider spawning seems pretty sweet.
And Brendan, what about you? What are you most looking forward to, or what would you most want to change 2 years from now?
Well, I hope that they keep doing what they have been doing, which is like dig up neat little limited archetypes and mechanics from old sets, so that it's almost like a specialty cube in the sense that, here, like I've never drafted Kamigawa block before, but you've heard, the Soul Shift deck is just a lot of fun, and now you have a chance to play that here, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of that. But I hope there's not the next time they make Modern Masters, I hope it isn't white blue is artifacts, red green is domain. Some of them are just kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
And I hope that they can do more to do things like the interaction between graft and proliferate and also wither, and all the way they're using the +1 and the -1 counters is really neat. And they could do a lot of cool stuff with that, where they have mechanics from different sets that are playing in the same area and do cool stuff. And hopefully they'll stop making red black be, here's a stupid aggro deck that isn't very good.
Just wait
Yeah,
till Dash makes it into Modern Masters, then red black will be good.
Dash,
Yeah.
oh my god, that's a few
Unleash will be in the next one.
Oh, that's true.
Hopefully they will recreate one of the best feelings in Limited ever, which is your opponent plays that, I don't even know what it was called. It was a 1/2 Death Toucher that had Unleash. And so you'd make it a 2/3 Death Toucher that couldn't block, and then you cast Stab Wound on it. And they just sit there and cry.
Wow.
And they're like, I'll attack you with my 0/1. Like, I won't block. Like, maybe they'll block.
That's a feel-good moment.
Yeah. The next Modern Masters should have sweet cards from Innistrad and Return to Ravnica. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe some Snapcaster, some Liliana. There's so many great cards from those sets that it might 2 years from now it might be time. So 2 years from now it'll be 2017, and it will be 10 years since everybody should have opened more Tarmogoyfs in Future Sight. So maybe it'll be time to bump him down to rare and knock his price down once and for all. That's what I'm hoping for.
Maybe there'll be time for them to reprint Delver of Secrets and make a bunch of flip cards and
transform. They'll maybe they'll make a bunch of the Kamigawa transform cards with double-sided cards.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Anyway, so Modern Masters Weekend is coming up. Make sure you watch the coverage so Wizards knows that A, they're terrible at coverage, and B, that people want to watch it. Anyways, it'll be 24-hour coverage, so no matter what your sleep cycle is, tune in this weekend. BMAC and Dave will both be there competing. I will be watching and cheering on. Matt will be there. Hunter will be there. Most of the staff will be there. Plenty of members of the community, our community, your community, every community will be there. Do not miss out on Modern Masters Weekend.
Yeah, and if we see you down there, find one of the hipsters, and we're gonna have some pretty sweet Modern Masters tokens.
Yes,
Matt Jones did some really, really good watercolors, and we got them printed on some business cards, and they're absolutely beautiful.
You are gonna want to use these tokens for your. We've got Eldrazi spawn, and we've got soldier tokens.
Yep.
And we've got what else? What are the other two
tokens?
Germ tokens.
Eldrazi spawn.
Yeah, Eldrazi spawns. Soldier, and I'm totally blanking on
Beast, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it was one of the common tokens. Germs.
Spirit. No.
Spirit?
No.
Yeah, it was it Spirit? Well, anyways.
Yes, it was. It was because it was Club Mate.
Oh, right. It was.
Oh, that's right.
So if you got those, if you need those tokens for your deck, make sure you track down one of the Hipsters of the Coast writers. You can tweet at us at HOTC blog, and we will help you track one of the writers down and grab some sweet tokens in Vegas to use with your decks. And I'm gonna just keep on plugging our stuff until my Twitch stream turns itself off, right? Because it'll eventually just get sick of hearing me talk.
Hey Guardians, thanks for tuning in to the Doomed Travelers podcast. You can find more at doomtravelers.com or follow at Doomed Travelers on Twitter for show updates and other nonsense. Make sure to subscribe to Hipsters TV on YouTube for videos of our previous episodes, and don't forget that you can find audio-only versions of the Doomed Travelers podcast on iTunes. For your host, Rich Stein, and Matt the Obliterator Jones, I'm David Bones McCoy. See you next time.